A lesson for such as love the world too fondly. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and Mammon. An astronomer who had long idolized his favorite science became a zealous convert to spiritual Christianity. His intimate friend, knowing his extreme devotion to astronomical study, asked him, "What will you now do with your astronomy?" His answer was worthy of a Christian philosopher. "I am now bound for heaven," said he, "and I take the stars in my way." By these words the astronomer taught his friend that he had transferred his affections from the created to the Creator, that instead of finding his highest pleasure out of God, he found it in God, and that the true use of the visible was to assist him in his aspirations after the invisible and eternal. And this converted astronomer was right. He exhibited the true spirit of the Christian and the true relation of the believer to the world. For what is a Christian but a man whose life is controlled by an all-absorbing love for Christ? To Christ the current of his being flows. To become like Christ, he taxes all his energies and concentrates all his powers. To please Christ in all things is his inflexible purpose. So strong in his self-devotion, he prefers any sacrifice, even the loss of his property or life, to the frown of his beloved. For him, therefore, the world, with its manifold allurements and diversions, has no charm sufficient to win him from his allegiance to Christ. It has ceased to be his master. He has renounced it as unworthy of being sought as an end. As being necessary to his existence, he uses it, but always as a means to a higher good, never as an end. For its own sake he has ceased to love it. Its amusement, spirit, practice, and society he rejects, because instead of contributing to promote his chosen affection, they tend to deaden and destroy it. He knows that to love the world is to cease from loving Christ. For is it not written, "If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him"? And has not his Master said, "Ye cannot serve God and Mammon"? It is obvious to reason that these two affections, the love of the world and the love of the Father, cannot coexist in the same breast. Are they not too unlike and too conflicting in their sources, workings, and tendencies to be other than exclusive to each other? Obviously, the love of Christ, originating in the work of the Spirit, fed by faith in the invisible, and ever tending upwards toward the purity and glory of the eternal mind, cannot abide with that love of the world, which springs from a depraved selfishness, is nurtured by those material objects which gratify the senses and stimulate the passions, and which tends only to the visible and sensual. How then can a Christian in whom the love of Christ predominates be otherwise than dead to the world? How otherwise than without relish or desire for its amusements and diversions, without any controlling regard for its honors and emoluments? The Christian who would use the world innocently may learn a lesson from Dame Nature, who is always a wise instructress. She grows the odoriferous flowers whose aroma is so grateful to the senses, but it is only when that odor is wafted to us in the casual gust of wind that it is sure to please. For no sooner do we pluck the flower, or press it too hard, or hold it too near, than forthwith it smells of the stalk, and we throw it away disappointed. It is even so with the world. Used cautiously, Kept at a lawful distance from the affections, it yields innocent delight. But if brought too near, if sought too earnestly, if loved for its own sake, it yields true pleasure no longer. It rather corrupts and then destroys. Let the child of God seek, therefore, to understand the difference between the righteous use and the guilty abuse of earthly things. The pious Leighton says of the professor who stands irresolute between God and the world, "It is a most unseemly and unpleasant thing to see a man's life full of ups and downs, one step like a Christian and another like a worldling. It cannot choose but both pain himself and mar the edification of others." How truly does this homely aphorism picture the injurious consequences of the worldly life of a professedly religious man! It curses its actors by blighting all his real joy, and blasting all his hopes of heaven. It curses observers by the unfavorable impression of religion it makes on their minds. An old poet has given the same sentiment a little stronger than Leighton. God and the world we worship both together. Draw not our laws to him, but him to ours. Untrue to both, so prosperous in neither, the imperfect will brings forth but barren flowers. Unwise as all distracted interests be, strangers to God, fools in humanity, too good for great things, and too great for good, while still I dare not, waits upon I would. If this quaint old poet is severe, he is also correct. To be untrue to God and the world is to be prosperous in neither. The result of perseverance in this career must therefore be ruinous. It can terminate only in utter apostasy. Can a worldly spirit look steadfastly on such an end without trembling? But we beseech the reader, if he is of that class, to gaze fixedly upon the idea until his soul does shudder, for it is better to be filled with fearfulness and trembling now than to perish hereafter. And it is by beholding the gulf towards which he is tending that a traveller is effectually roused to a consciousness of danger. Look then, thou worldly-minded one, and tremble. True fear will not save you, but it may lead you to feel that sense of your guilt which must precede your return to Christ. It may induce you to look to Christ, and in that looking lies your safety. Beholding him, your dying religious affections will be rekindled. As they revive, your love of the world will decline. Instead of being drawn, as by irresistible allurements, to worldly loves and diversions, you will rise superior to them all, exclaiming, "Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth I desire beside thee." Look upward, therefore, beloved wanderer from the paths of spirituality. Behold the invisible things revealed to faith through the promises. Thus shall you realize the truth of the sentiment of that pious writer who says, "Could we ascend sufficiently high from the earth, her Alps, Andes, and Himalaya mountains would sink to a level, and earth appear as an even sphere." Even so are the toys of time, the gifts, honors, and pleasures of earth to him who, ascending on wings of faith, views the vast round of eternity. Poor silly soul, whose hope and head lies low, whose flat delights on earth do creep and grow, to whom the stars shine not so fair as eyes, nor solid work as false embroideries. Hark and beware, lest what you now do measure and write for sweet prove a most sore displeasure. Oh, here be times, lest thy relenting may come too late. To purchase heaven for repenting is no hard rate. If souls be made of earthly mould, let them love gold. If born on high, let them unto their kindred fly. For they can never be at rest till they regain their ancient nest. Then, silly soul, take heed, for earthly joy is but a bubble, and makes thee a boy.